Imagine walking through a vast, ancient library. Each book holds the soul of a people, filled with their stories, their songs, their unique way of seeing the world. Now, imagine watching as these books, one by one, turn to dust. The ink fades, the pages crumble, and the voices within fall silent forever. This is what happens when a language dies. It's not just a collection of words that vanishes, it's an entire universe of thought, a cultural DNA forged over centuries that is erased from human memory. The world becomes a little less diverse, a little less vibrant, and a little less wise with each language that we lose. Throughout history, humans have spoken an astonishing number of languages, perhaps more than 7,000 in recent times alone. Yet this rich tapestry of communication is rapidly fraying. Today we face an unprecedented crisis of linguistic extinction. Experts estimate that a language dies, on average, every 2 weeks. Of the thousands of languages still spoken, nearly half are considered endangered. This means they are at risk of disappearing within the next century. This loss is a silent one, often happening in remote communities far from the headlines. But its impact is profound, leaving behind a void that can never be truly filled. When we lose a language, we lose more than just a different way to say hello or goodbye. We lose unique perspectives on life, nature, and the human condition. Each language is a living repository of collective knowledge. It contains generations of observations about local plants and animals, traditional medicine, and sustainable ways of living. It holds the keys to understanding a people's history, their spiritual beliefs, and their artistic traditions. A language is a lens through which a community interprets reality. Losing that lens means we all lose a part of our shared human heritage and a piece of the puzzle of what it means to be human. The disappearance of a language is a deeply personal tragedy for its speakers. It represents a severing of ties to their ancestors and their cultural identity. Imagine not being able to understand the lullabies your grandmother sang or the stories your grandfather told. This loss can lead to a sense of alienation and a weakening of community bonds. For the world at large, it is a collective loss of intellectual wealth. We are left with fewer tools to solve problems, fewer stories to inspire us, and a more uniform, less interesting world. Every silenced language is a library burned, a potential discovery unrealized, and a human story left untold. Languages, like living organisms, have life cycles. They are born, they evolve, and they can die. The process of language death can be slow and gradual, almost unnoticeable from one generation to the next. This often happens when a community is pressured to adopt a more dominant language for economic or social reasons. Parents may decide not to teach their children the ancestral tongue, believing that speaking the majority language will give them better opportunities in school and work. This creates a generation gap in transmission. The language may still be spoken by the elders, but it is no longer the language of the home or the playground. This gradual fading is a quiet process. It happens in homes, in markets, and in schools. The ancestral language becomes confined to fewer and fewer situations. First, it disappears from public life, then from community gatherings, and finally from the family itself. The number of speakers dwindles until only a handful of elders remain. When the last speaker passes away, the language falls silent. This decline is often driven by powerful external forces, such as globalization, urbanization, and national education systems that promote a single, standard language at the expense of all others. The pressure to conform can be immense. However, language death can also be sudden and violent. Throughout history, catastrophic events have wiped out entire speech communities, taking their languages with them. War, disease, and natural disasters can decimate a population, leaving too few speakers to sustain their language. The colonization of the Americas, for example, led to the extinction of hundreds of indigenous languages as populations were ravaged by new diseases and forced displacement. Similarly, genocide is not just the murder of a people, it is also the murder of their culture, their history, and their voice. These sudden events are storms that tear through a community, leaving devastation in their wake. When a people are forcibly removed from their ancestral lands, they are separated from the places that gave their language meaning. The names of mountains, rivers, and sacred sites lose their context. When a community is forbidden from speaking its own language, as has happened under many oppressive regimes, the language is driven underground. This is a direct assault on a people's human rights and their dignity. Whether the process is a slow fade or a sudden storm, the result is the same. A part of humanity's collective voice is silenced forever. In the heart of ancient Italy, long before the rise of Rome, lived a mysterious and sophisticated people known as the Etruscans. They flourished in the region of modern-day Tuscany between the 8th and 1st centuries BC. They were skilled engineers, vibrant artists, and seafaring traders who left behind elaborate tombs filled with beautiful frescoes and intricate artifacts. Yet despite their influence on early Roman culture, one of their greatest legacies remains an enigma: their language. The Etruscan language is a true isolate. It's not related to the other languages of ancient Italy like Latin or Oscan, nor does it seem connected to any other known language family in the world. Our knowledge of Etruscan is, honestly, frustratingly incomplete. We have over 13,000 short inscriptions, but most are very repetitive. They're mainly funerary inscriptions found on tombs and sarcophagi, recording the name, age, and parentage of the deceased. Imagine trying to understand modern English using only the text from gravestones. You would learn some names and family relationships, but you would know almost nothing about grammar, daily conversation, or literature. We have a few longer texts, like the Zagreb mummy wrapping, which is a linen book that was later cut into strips to wrap a mummy, but it appears to be a religious calendar, and its meaning is still debated. The disappearance of Etruscan was a gradual process, driven by the expansion of a powerful neighbor Rome. As the Roman Republic grew its territory and influence, Latin became the dominant language of power, administration, and trade. Etruscan communities slowly began to assimilate. They adopted Roman customs, Roman laws, and eventually the Latin language. Etruscan was gradually pushed out of public life and retreated into the home. By the 1st century AD, the Roman Emperor Claudius, who had a keen interest in history, wrote a 20-volume grammar of Etruscan. Sadly, his work is now lost, and it seems he was one of the last people to have any deep knowledge of it. The loss of Etruscan is a profound historical tragedy. It is a locked door in the history of Europe. If we could understand it fully, we might unlock the secrets of who the Etruscans were, where they came from, and how they saw the world. We have their art, their tombs, and their cities, but we cannot hear their voices. Their language remains a silent echo, a tantalizing puzzle that reminds us of the vast swathes of human history that have been lost to time. The Etruscan enigma is a powerful testament to the fact that even a major, literate civilization can have its language utterly vanish from the earth, leaving behind more questions than answers. In the Caucasus Mountains, a region famous for its incredible linguistic diversity, a language once existed that was truly extraordinary. This was the Ubykh language, spoken by a people who originally lived along the Black Sea coast in what is now Russia. Ubykh was not remarkable for its number of speakers, which was always relatively small. It was remarkable for its sound system. While English has around 44 distinct sounds, Ubykh had at least 84. It possessed a vast array of consonants, including many sounds that are found in no other language on Earth. To the untrained ear, it sounded like a complex series of hisses, clicks, and guttural bursts. The story of Ubykh's demise is a tragic one, tied to the history of the Caucasus Wars in the 19th century. After a long and brutal conflict with the Russian Empire, the Ubykh people, along with many of their Circassian neighbors, were forced into exile. In 1864, the entire Ubykh nation was deported to the Ottoman Empire, now modern-day Turkey. Scattered in small villages, they found themselves surrounded by speakers of Turkish and other Circassian languages. To survive and communicate in their new home, they had to adapt. The younger generations began to favor Turkish, the language of the state and of opportunity. The fate of the Ubykh language came to rest on the shoulders of one man, Tevfik Esenk. He was born in Turkey in 1904 and grew up speaking Ubykh with his grandparents. He remembered the stories and traditions of his people. As the older speakers passed away, Etruscans became a crucial partner for linguists from around the world who flocked to his village to document the language before it vanished. He had a perfect memory and a deep understanding of the language's complexities. He worked tirelessly with researchers, recording thousands of pages of Ubykh words, stories, and grammatical forms. He was, in effect, a living archive of his people's culture. Tevfik Esens passed away on October 7, 1992. With his death, the Ubykh language became extinct. He was the very last person on Earth who could speak it fluently. The world had lost its most complex consonant inventory. We have recordings of his voice and detailed grammatical descriptions, so the language is not completely lost to science, but it is no longer a living, breathing form of communication. The story of Tevfik Esens is a poignant and personal reminder of what language death looks like. It is the final lonely silence after the last word has been spoken, a silent echo from a lost world. Not all stories of language loss end in silence. Sometimes a community can pull its language back from the brink of extinction. One of the most inspiring examples of this is the revival of Manx, the traditional Celtic language of the Isle of Man. Like many minority languages in the British Isles, Manx had been in decline for centuries. The growing influence of English as the language of government, commerce, and education meant that fewer and fewer children were learning Manx at home. The language was seen as old-fashioned, an obstacle to progress. By the middle of the 20th century, only a handful of elderly native speakers remained. The decline seemed irreversible. In 1974, the last native speaker of Manx, a fisherman named Ned Madrell, passed away. By many definitions, the language was now officially extinct. However, the story did not end there. A small but dedicated group of enthusiasts had already begun the hard work of revival. They were not native speakers themselves, but they had learned the language from the remaining elders, including Madrell. They used old documents and sound recordings to piece the language back together. They were driven by a passionate belief that the Manx language was the soul of their nation and that its loss would be an unacceptable cultural tragedy. Their efforts started small. They organized evening classes and created learning materials. They began to use Manx with their own children, creating a new generation of first language speakers. A key moment came in 1992 with the opening of the first Manx language playgroup. This led to the establishment of the Bunscoil Gaelgad, a primary school where all subjects are taught through the medium of Manx. This school has been incredibly successful, creating a new generation of fluent, confident young speakers who see their language as a normal and vibrant part of their identity. The language is now more visible on the island, appearing on street signs and in official documents. The revival of Manx is a powerful testament to the resilience of language and the power of community action. It shows that extinction is not necessarily forever. While the new Manx may differ slightly from the language spoken by Ned Madrell, it is a living, evolving form of communication that connects the present-day inhabitants of the Isle of Man to their unique heritage. It demonstrates that with enough passion, dedication, and strategic planning, a community can reclaim its voice. The story of Manx offers a beacon of hope for other endangered language communities around the world, proving that a silenced tongue can learn to speak again. In our modern, interconnected world, the same forces that can threaten languages can also be harnessed to save them. Technology, once seen as a driver of linguistic uniformity, is now emerging as one of the most powerful tools in the fight to preserve and revitalize endangered languages. The digital revolution has provided new and innovative ways for communities to document, teach, and share their ancestral tongues. From smartphone apps to online dictionaries and social media platforms, technology is offering a lifeline to languages that were once on a path to silence. It allows for the preservation of a language in a way that was unimaginable just a few decades ago. One of the most significant contributions of technology is in the area of documentation. Linguists and community members can now use high-quality digital audio and video recorders to create a lasting archive of the last remaining speakers. These recordings capture not just words and grammar, but the nuances of pronunciation, intonation, and storytelling. This data can be stored in online archives, like the Endangered Languages Archive, making it accessible to researchers and community members anywhere in the world. This digital record ensures that the language will not be completely lost, even if it falls out of daily use for a time. It becomes a sleeping language that can be reawakened by future generations. Beyond preservation, technology is revolutionizing language learning. Mobile apps like Duolingo or Memrise are now including courses for endangered languages like Irish, Welsh, and Hawaiian, making them accessible to a global audience. For communities themselves, software can be used to create interactive dictionaries, online grammar guides, and children's games. Social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok have become virtual spaces where speakers can connect, practice their language, and build a sense of community, even if they are geographically scattered. This allows the language to exist and thrive in a modern context, proving that it is not just a relic of the past. Furthermore, technology empowers communities to take control of their own linguistic future. User-friendly tools for creating websites, podcasts, and videos allow speakers to produce their own media in their own language. This is crucial for raising the prestige of the language and making it relevant to younger people. They can create cartoons for children, record music, or produce news reports, all in their ancestral tongue. This grassroots activity fosters a sense of pride and ownership. The digital scribe in this sense is not just a passive recorder, but an active partner in the process of language revitalization, helping to build a vibrant digital future for the world's linguistic diversity. The fight to save endangered languages is about much more than just preserving words in a dictionary. It is about safeguarding the richness of human experience and acknowledging the fundamental right of every community to its own cultural identity. Each language is a unique masterpiece of human intellect, a testament to our species' creativity. When we stand by and allow a language to disappear, we are tearing a page out of the human story. We are impoverishing ourselves and depriving future generations of a part of their inheritance. The diversity of languages is a mirror of the diversity of life on our planet. It is a resource that we should protect with the same urgency as we protect endangered species and ecosystems. Preserving languages is also a matter of human rights and social justice. For many Indigenous and minority communities, their language is intrinsically linked to their land, their spirituality, and their sense of self. To lose the language is to lose a core part of who they are. History has shown that forbidding or discouraging the use of a language is a powerful tool of oppression and assimilation. Conversely, supporting a community's efforts to maintain its language is an act of empowerment. It is a recognition of their dignity, their history, and their right to exist as a distinct people. A world that values linguistic diversity is a world that values tolerance, respect, and cultural pluralism. The wisdom encoded in these languages is not just of historical interest, it holds practical value for all of humanity. Many endangered languages are spoken by communities who have lived in close harmony with their natural environment for centuries. Their vocabularies contain a wealth of ecological knowledge, detailed classifications of plants, animals, and weather patterns that is found nowhere else. This traditional ecological knowledge can offer valuable insights as we face global challenges like climate change and biodiversity loss. The loss of a language can mean the loss of vital clues to sustainable living, a body of knowledge that we can ill afford to ignore. Ultimately, we all have a role to play in this effort. Whether we are linguists, policymakers, educators, or simply concerned citizens, we can contribute. We can support organizations that work on language documentation and revitalization. We can encourage policies that promote multilingual education. We can show interest and respect for the minority languages spoken in our own communities. The task is immense, but the example of languages like Manx shows that it is not impossible. Every language saved is a victory for human culture. It is a commitment to a future where thousands of voices, not just a few, can continue to tell the story of who we are. Every word truly counts.